There's a plan and a purpose for my life that's about more than just me. From grief to purpose. No, I am not my pain, and I'm telling you my journey of healing is gonna take me from grief to purpose. Turning my pain into purpose. From grief to purpose. Turning all my pain into purpose. From grief to purpose.
Hey everyone, welcome back to From Grief to Purpose. It's been a good minute since our last chat, and I've really missed you all. I've missed recording um, the episodes for the podcast, but life has been busy on my end. That's all I'm gonna say here. I broke my finger. I'm showing you. I broke my finger, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Um, so I wanted to come on though today and talk about, as it relates to grief, the emotions that we go through while we're grieving, just, those many things that we can grieve from. So whether it's, loss of a loved one, which is most commonly known, as it relates to grief, but divorce, job loss, life transitions, shifts in our health, many different things can shift us into the emotional process of grieving. So I'm so glad that I am back on with you all today. And I want to go ahead and just dive into this particular topic. So we're going to talk about the many of what we all relate to, again, as it relates to grief. We're going to talk about those emotions. And we're going to just talk about the roller coaster that grief takes us on. Okay. So let's get into it. We've all, of course, heard about the stages of grief. And in particular, I'm talking about denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, right? We have all heard about those particular stages and how they can show up during the grieving process. But the truth is, we also know that grief is not linear, right? We've heard that grief is not linear. So that means that grief isn't always going to be this neat and tidy, process. It is not. It doesn't move in that straight line, as we want it to. It's not organized, right? It is messy. Grief is so messy. Like it is messy. It is a messy emotional process. It's unpredictable, and each of us experiences grief in a very different way because we are all individuals, right? We all show up in life differently. So today we're going to explore just that. We're going to explore the complexities of grief, the range of emotions we go through, and how important it is to show up for ourselves in every single one of those moments, okay? In all of its messiness. So let's get into it. Let's dive in to this particular topic, and I hope that it helps you in your own personal journey or even take some tips because, one thing about grief is and grieving is that we will all face it at some point in our lives through, any particular event or circumstance. Look at the amount of people that have lost jobs during this particular time within government right now. That is an impact that grief has, I'm sure, definitely played a role in their own personal journeys. Now, listen, let's get into it. So, in initial, right, I want to just start off by saying that grief is an emotional roller coaster. That is a fact. Grief is, it's just that, 1 minute you might feel like you're okay, like you're fine, everything's okay. I'm all right, right? And the next, it's something as or it can be something as simple as a smell or a song, or a memory, right? That just random thought, random memory, that can trigger deep sadness or anger. And I want you to know that that is absolutely normal. It is normal for those things to transpire. Again, grief doesn't follow a timeline. So all those emotions, all those triggers, or whatever is going to happen during the process is going to happen when it feels like it. It's going to show up whenever it feels like it. So, it doesn't have to, I should say, I don't want you to be in expectation that your grieving process is going to have this predictable pattern, because it is not. Now, one of the hardest things about grief that I want you to understand, or that I want you to know, is the intensity of the emotions we go through. So I wanted to talk about some of those emotions, or some of the common emotions that we might all know about, but let's get into a little bit of depth on some of them. So, shock and disbelief, right? Shock and disbelief in these particular early stages, I'll say, of grief. Many may find themselves feeling numb. You might find yourself almost like you're in a fog. I can attest to this with the loss of my mother and the loss of my father. I went through this. So, whether it's the loss of a loved one, or a divorce, or even the loss of a job, there's often the initial disbelief, like, did this really happen? Like, wait just one moment. Did this just take place in my life? Like, what is going on? So, our minds at this particular state of emotion, it's just trying to protect us from the full weight and the pain all at once. Now, the next particular emotion that I want us to get into is anger. Okay. And I want us to be comfortable with this particular emotion, because anger is a very real emotion that shows up during the grieving process in all of its glory. And this one can take us by surprise, because it is, anger. And you might even think, if you've experienced being angry, especially with the loss of a loved one, like, why am I upset? Or you just might not even understand, or just go straight to being angry. But we often feel anger, towards the situation, towards other people, and even towards ourselves. We can be mad at ourselves. And sometimes when we're angry, we might place it at even life itself, or even God, right? And you know what? This emotion as well, that's okay. It is an emotion. And what I'm trying to get you to understand during your grieving process of whatever it is that you're grieving, that these emotions are okay. So you're going to hear me say a lot, that's okay. It's normal for you to feel like this. Okay. So it's important to recognize that anger is a valid part of the grieving process. It's a valid part of your process. So show up for it. Okay. Now, the next emotion I want us to get into is sadness. This is one we're all familiar with. We're all familiar with sadness. We're familiar with that it's the deep, it's all encompassing, it's what most people associate with grief. And it can feel like a weight is sitting on your chest, making it hard for you to breathe in this particular emotion during your grieving process, during your time of grieving. You can feel like you're even drowning in sadness. But sadness isn't something to push away. Do not push away this emotion. It is part of the healing process. You have to feel it, you have to feel it for sure in order to move through it. Okay. So now the next one I want to get into is guilt. Guilt is one that I would consider that you may be surprised by also, but guilt can be one of those most challenging emotions to navigate through. We start with this particular feeling, we feel guilty, and we begin to question ourselves. We begin to question, what we did when this loss occurred, or, the loss of the loved one occurred, the divorce happened. What did I do? Could I have done something differently? What did I do that maybe I could have said something a bit differently? This feeling in particular can be intense, when we lose a loved one, of course, but it can also happen, with other losses, like again, the end of a relationship or the end of a career, as I mentioned earlier, especially if you were let go of your job. Now, another a combined emotion that I want us to get into is relief and guilt and how they take place together. Sometimes we even feel relief when, or which can be confusing, right? But you might feel relief after the loss of a loved one, especially if they have been suffering, or their suffering has ended, right? Or maybe you are relieved to be out of a toxic relationship. But then guilt, here comes guilt, quickly following that relief. But it follows because we feel like we are not supposed to feel relieved. But it's important to recognize in this particular state of emotion that conflicting emotions can exist together, and how we manage them is the important thing. Now, the next combined state of emotion I want to get into is acceptance and healing. So eventually we come to a place of acceptance, but even this isn't, it's not, I don't want you to think it's the end of the roller coaster, right? It's, oh, finally I'm at this acceptance place. Everything's going to be okay. I'm not going to have any more triggers. I'm not going to face any of the emotions. I'm not going to have to go through those things anymore. Sadly, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not true. Acceptance doesn't mean that grief is over. It just means that you're learning to live with the loss. You've learned how to move on in hopefully a healthy way, but you've learned how to, grow through it. You're beginning to heal. And even if it's slow and if it's uneven territory, you're still at that place now of acceptance. The key here is, just more so understanding that there is no right way to grieve. It's your process. But the key thing with that, now there being no right way, just to remind yourself, grieve, and every emotion, every feeling is valid. They are yours. So they are valid feelings and they are valid emotions. Be sure to tell yourself that too. There should be no moment in time of you saying, why am I feeling like this? I shouldn't feel like this. There's a reason why you're feeling the way that you are feeling. So they're valid, and know that they are valid. Now, grief is deeply personal. I want you to know it's a very deep and personal experience, and we need to show up for ourselves at every stage of it, every single stage, no matter what you're facing. So again, if it's the loss of a loved one, show up for your feelings. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be painful. Yes, it is. If it's from a divorce, it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to be challenging. Yes, it is. If it's from a job loss, it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to be challenging to navigate these emotions. But show up for yourself and show up for every single emotion and feel all of those feelings and express all those feelings that you are experiencing. Now, in showing up for yourself, one of the things I want to stress today is the importance of doing just that through every single emotion. That means I need you to be honest about where you are and how you're feeling. So, whether it's anger, sadness, or even guilt, And I want you to give yourself the space to experience all of that without judgment, to experience all of that without trying to mask it and hide from it. Show up for your emotions, because showing up for in your emotions, those emotions that you're going through, helps you to process them in a healthy way. Okay. I can't even tell you how suppressing your feelings can bring about stress, and how suppressing and masking your feelings and not talking it out can bring about sickness. So show up for yourself. We're going to get into that in a later episode about what not confronting or expressing more so your emotions and suffocating your emotions and not talking through or communicating how you feel, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling is unhealthy, and what that can cause in your body. Now, but that's for another episode. So listen, often, before I digress, and this is why I have my notes on me, friends, so I can stay on track. But listen, often we try to rush through grief, and that's not healthy, because I don't want you to be in a rush space. But we do that because we're afraid to let ourselves feel it, because it's painful, right? It's painful to show up for this sadness that I'm supposed to feel, or this pain that I have to, express. And especially if you don't have the proper language to express what you're feeling. And if you don't, I don't want you to feel like you have to have this articulate language to express what you feel. That's why I'm going over basics of the complexities of our emotions, right? Sadness, anger, guilt. If you are feeling that, that's what it is. So say that I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm, feeling guilty because I felt like this wasn't supposed to happen. Stay there, feel that, and express it. So I don't want you to, do what we often do, which is we might distract ourselves, with, work or relationships, or even the busyness of just doing whatever to avoid facing the depth of our emotions. Because in reality, grief will demand that we face it. It definitely takes a toll on us. But it's going to demand, that you address your emotions, because each and every one of those emotions are just going to keep knocking, keep hounding you until you release them in a healthy way. Now, grief isn't something you can, just, as we've heard often, get over. It's something that you carry with you over time. It becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of your life. It's something that you just learn to live with, especially as it relates to very significant, impactful, traumatic events that has transpired in your life. And in order to carry it in a way that doesn't overwhelm you, you need to acknowledge where you are in your current state. So, are you angry today? Are you feeling lost today? Or are you starting to heal? Like, where are you in your particular journey? Wherever you are, it's important to show up with compassion for yourself and honesty. Now, I want to share with you just a few more tips on navigating this particular roller coaster of emotions that we just addressed here, right? I want you to acknowledge your emotions and understand how to do so. So, by doing so, don't try to suppress your feelings, right? I've mentioned that. Let yourself express the sadness, express the anger, and express the confusion. All of that is a part of the process. So, just welcome yourself to it and process your process out. The most important thing, or one of the most important things that you'll also find helpful, or I hope you find helpful along your journey, or hope you take the steps to do these little things that will be beneficial to your process while you're grieving. What you are grieving is journaling. Journaling is very helpful. Or even, just by writing those things down. You may not want to talk it out just yet, but getting a notebook, whatever, a little notebook from I don't know, Walmart, the dollar store, or what have you. And writing your thoughts down, writing what is taking place emotionally on the inside of you is very therapeutic. Talking to a friend, someone that you can trust, someone that you know is in your support network. They always have, you know, wisdom to give you, or they are wise enough to know and understand that, you know, maybe I should just listen, and this person, my friend, just needs to vent to me and I just need to listen. Seek out a friend, or even seeking therapy or a grief coach like myself to talk to can be a powerful way to process your emotions during your process. So what I don't want you to do is bottle them up, okay? So journaling, talking to a friend, or seeking out coaching or seeking out therapy can help you through your process. Now, another tip, and this is a major one. You know, sometimes, especially for, I'm going to say this is a major one for my busy people, those that love to stay busy. You love to avoid your emotions. And I've been guilty. I've been guilty a time or two of doing so myself. Is take a break, take a necessary break. Sometimes you need to step away from your grief. You need to step away and, you know, just be. So whether that is through prayer, meditation, or simply enjoying a moment of peace, doing nothing but everything that is peaceful to you, it is okay to step away and take a breather. Okay. And even breathing, like doing breathing exercises helps, you know, the body, you know, do what the body does in a very helpful state. And we're going to have someone on later on to walk us through some breathing exercises that may help you along your journey. So now, this is another part that I want to add to our tips, and that's just being kind to yourself. So, because I add this because grief can be exhausting. It can be extremely exhausting, both emotionally and physically. So make sure you're taking care of your body as well as your mind. And how do you take care of your body? How are we taking care of your mind? You know, rest when you need to rest, right? Exercise, diet and exercise is so key. Like, you know, we can't just eat a whole bunch of junk food, you know, throughout the duration of, you know, you're grieving this loss. What if the grieving process for you takes 10 years? You know, are we just going to gorge on, you know, all this unhealthy food that we're putting into our bodies and just not exercise? Absolutely not. It's not healthy. So, diet and exercise, take care of your body, hydrate, drink water, hydrate by drinking water. um, as along, of course, with whatever other beverages you enjoy, but make sure you're drinking water and rest when you need to rest again. And don't be afraid to ask for help. That's my hint back to that therapy, coaching, or a friend if you're not ready for coaching or therapy. Make sure that friend is someone that is of wise, you know, supportive, they're empathetic, and they, you know, either have the right words for you, has that have that comfort for you, or they just know they just need to just listen. Now, if you're, you know, riding the roller coaster of grief, I want you to know that you are not alone. You don't have to do your grieving journey alone. Again, there's many different professionals out there like myself. I'm going to leave my website here for you. You can visit my directory. I have a host of therapists, coaches on there that can help you in your personal journey if you do not fit well with myself. There are too many tools out here for, you know, you to be sad, mad, angry, depressed, you know, and just, you know, in a dark room somewhere alone doing this process by yourself. You don't have to do that. So your emotions, no matter how overwhelming or unexpected, just know that they're a part of the process. You know, it's unavoidable, during the time of grieving. And I keep hitting my drink glass there, but it's unavoidable. It's a part of the process. And the moment that we realize, you know what, all of this is a part of the process, it makes it a bit easier to kind of navigate those difficult situations that you're navigating. And it's the reason why I wanted to share a bit about each particular emotion on today. So show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. Be kind to yourself. And remember that healing takes time. This is not a race. Your healing journey is not a race. It takes time. So grief might never fully leave you, but in time, you'll learn how to carry it with grace. And through that journey, you'll discover new strengths and purpose you didn't even know were possible within you. So, thank you for joining me, friends, today on From Grief to Purpose. I'm going to wrap it up here by saying if you found this episode helpful, feel free to share it with someone. Please share it with someone that you know needs these tips. They need this community. And just to be able of, continuing to support each other through our particular seasons of difficult times. We need community. We need each other. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, healing is possible, but also understand that healing is one day at a time. All right, you guys. Thanks again for tuning in to From Grief to Purpose. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every like and follow. And if you're struggling with grief again, know that you have a community here to support you. Be sure to like, be sure to share, and be sure to subscribe to the From Grief to Purpose podcast. I'll see you next time.